but it was the early days of MTV. And I was into Rush and Billy Squiire and Def Leppard and those kind of things. I think it's probably pretty common for a 14, 15-year-old kid at that time.
Sure.
So then in the midst of all that, those watching those videos, and I remember my brother just thinking I was crazy, was the Atlantic City video would pop on, and I was just riveted to that video. And and it was just such a departure from everything else. There was Bruce wasn't in it. It was black and white on the bus, and just such different music. And I was just really attracted to that song, and that was really, I guess, my start.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new episode of Set Listing Bruce, your podcast all about Bruce Springsteen, his music, and mostly his fans. I am your host, Jesse Jackson, fresh from a unplanned sabbatical, but I am back. I am recording new episodes as we record this. This is June 9th, about day 15 in my liquid diet only, and damn am I hungry for solid food. So unfortunately my guest is going to have to put up with my stomach grumbling, but I have Ken Sawilchik
Perfect.
Joining me. So Ken, welcome to the show, my friend.
Yeah, thanks, Jesse. Glad to have me on. I really appreciate it. Be really fun, and glad you're back and feeling better.
I am. So tell us a little about yourself. Give us your elevator pitch.
Yeah. So I guess we start out with Bruce Springsteen, but I've been a Bruce Springsteen fan for quite some time, since my I guess late high school, mid high school days. I live in Chicago. Been here, Chicago area. I live in Tinley Park, actually, a suburb of Chicago, but I've been in Chicago area my whole life. Live with my wife, and I have a Beagle Basset Hound mix, and I do marketing for a profession. And I know you noticed on Twitter today, I do a lot of blogging about the Chicago White Sox, and I've been doing that for 4 or 5 years now. So that's kind of it in a nutshell.
So why White Sox instead of Cubs?
Oh, well, yeah, really, that's a question. I mean, I guess I was not born a White Sox fan. Interesting enough, I'm going to put this out here, but I was, my father was a Cubs fan, and I grew up, a Cubs fan, but I guess I kind of got to high school age, and to fit in with the cool kids, I had to be a White Sox fan, and I converted and never looked back.
Little bit of rebel against your dad, or just
No, I don't think so at all. I was still a Cubs fan, a closet Cubs fan. I guess I was switched back and forth for for the crowd I was with for quite some time.
Because I always ask this because my son is 32 and grew up. He was born in '89. Quick to tell you, he's a Landry baby. Tom Landry was still the coach of the Cowboys when he was born.
Sure.
Jerry Jones didn't buy the team till like 2 weeks afterwards. And he is fascinated with the idea of, he grew up, he's a Cowboy fan. He's a Maverick fan. He's a Texas Rangers fan, because that's what you do. And, when we went up to Jersey to attend a Bruce show, he was asking everyone, like, okay, how do you decide whether you're a Giants or a Jets fan? I mean, and so I'm always fascinated, because you would think, like, if I got transferred to Chicago, I'd be like, hey, I have a chance to see professional team any given time, and would kind of both be rooting for them. But that isn't the nature of the business, is it?
Yeah. We can, I guess we can tie in a little Bruce here. You're born into this life paying for sins of somebody else's past, right? So,
Exactly. Well done, sir. Well done.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I guess, yeah, because you mentioned the rebel thing. Maybe it was a little bit of wanting to break away, but not really rebellious.
Yeah.
But yeah, and here in Chicago, you're one or the other, and I guess when I was a Cubs fan growing up, it seemed like I was the only one who was a Cubs fan. Everybody else was Sox fans, and now that I'm a Sox fan, it seems like everybody's Cubs fans, and there's just a small contingent of Sox
Mhm.
fans. But I guess that's the way it goes. So
Yeah. Um, because it was interesting. Um, the Sean Ryan um, was in an interview, and I forgot the name of the TV drama. He had Sean Ryan has done a lot of great TV, and but I forgot what. But one of them was set in Chicago, and it was a police show, and his lead character, I believe, was a Sox fan. And even though, like Ryan said, he's a Cubs fan, but he knew the character would be a White Sox fan. So I thought that
right,
was
right.
interesting, and that's cool. Well, I told you we'd go off on tangents.
Sure, sure. No, not
That's
a problem.
yeah,
That's what
that's
it's
a
all
little bit.
about, right?
Hey, so let's talk about growing up. Where did you grow up from, and what kind of music did your family listen to? What kind of
Yeah,
music?
yeah. So yeah, that's like I said. I've lived here in the south suburbs of Chicago for my whole life. So I grew up in a town called Palos Hills, and yeah, I guess my family. I don't know. There was maybe K-Tel was our kind of
Okay,
family music. I don't remember anything specific. I mean, I think they kind of listened. My family kind of listened to what was popular. I mean, maybe some Fleetwood Mac. I certainly think that, got me into Fleetwood Mac and Stevie Nicks. Maybe Linda Ronstadt, still somebody I listen to. But,
hmm
I think really otherwise it was just kind of, whatever was popular at the time, in the, early, late 70s.
so yeah, when did you graduate high school?
I graduated high school in 85.
Okay, so you're a little bit younger than I am. So, because I graduated in '77, but yeah, that era of pop radio, top 40 radio was big during that time. Um, so, can you remember when you discovered Bruce?
Yeah. I think this is it's probably a unique entry point for me too, because I suppose I had heard of him, but I didn't really know what he was all about, and I'd probably heard Hungry Heart on the radio, but didn't really
Sure.
make any association with him or anything. But it was the early days of MTV, and I was into like Rush and Billy Squire and Def Leppard and those kind of things. I think it's probably pretty common for a 14, 15-year-old kid at that time.
Sure.
So then in the midst of all that, those watching those videos, and I remember my brother just thinking I was crazy, was the Atlantic City video would pop on, and I was just riveted to that video. And and it was just such a departure from everything else. There was Bruce wasn't in it. It was black and white on the bus, and just such different music. And I was just really attracted to that song, and that was really, I guess, my start. I never wound up buying the Nebraska album, though I contemplated it for quite some time. And back then, buying an album on vinyl was like buying a yacht now or something. You really had to make some put some thought into a purchase. So I didn't just buy things easily. Looking back on it, I'm probably glad I didn't I didn't buy it, because probably would have been such a departure from what I was listening to. I probably wouldn't have really got into it that much. I think something like My Father's House, where my thin lines so much since I unatoned, is such a departure from Billy Squire do the stroke. I think I would have probably not really latched onto it, but I kind of forgot about him for that point. And then, 2 years later, 84, I heard, Dance in the Dark on the radio, and was like, wow, this is the best song I probably ever heard in my life. And I was hooked from there.
I want to go back just for a moment. I remember reading a article back at, during the 80s, and I can't remember which, I'm sure it must have been a magazine, but it might have been the Lake Charles Press, the American Press, but there was an article about music videos, about them coming of age in MTV. And I remember very clearly talking about the different genres and the different ways. And this person in the article specifically mentioned, and some do videos like Bruce Springsteen, Atlantic City, where he doesn't even appear. Because they started out basically concert footage,
Right, right.
and I remember sticking with that I remember thinking about that, how unusual that was. That, and it was, because he had not done a lot of videos up at that point. And and to do that creatively, I could see why. First off, it's a great song. And secondly, the mood of that video was pretty cool. So
Yeah, yeah,
mhm. Yeah,
yeah.
so
Go
go
ahead.
ahead. I was going to say, so, but then like everyone else in the world, Born in the USA comes out, and you're hit by just this massive, hit album, right? This hit machine.
Right, right. Yeah, and that's I can't remember the time. It was like, you're not a Bruce Springsteen fan. You're a pop. It's a pop record.
Yeah,
You're a Born in the USA fan, and I guess I was always kind of trying to hide that in those days that I came in on that album. But I just think it was a natural progression of things. The way that my age at the time, and the way the music kind of hit and the way I came about it. So
well, for what it's worth, Ken, I think it gets a bad rep. First off, it was um, you know, the album is in itself is filled with a lot of great songs. And yes, I guess maybe it could be a little outdated because of the style of songs, but the reality is, um, you know, there are a lot of great songs, and it's easy to be a snob and go, well, I'm into Darkness or I'm in Nebraska, but there's no shame. And, Born in the USA, I think if a lot of fans would confess, like, a huge generation of people who didn't live in the East Coast, that, didn't discover him via, some of these others. That's where a lot of people found his music.
Oh yeah, I'm great. I mean, it was so huge at that time, and that's still a great. It's still a great album. I still like to listen to it. In fact, it's funny. I mentioned I moved recently, and I
Yeah.
was going through some things. I found that album on vinyl, and I was just thinking like how much this had really influenced my life and changed it, the things I've done and the people I've met, and really how that
Yeah.
one piece of vinyl had really changed and shaped really a lot of my future.
Well, yeah, and I also always get a kick out of when you think about, when he's building a live set list, right? Um, I had my good friend Sam years ago, before Tom Petty passed, had went to a Tom Petty show, and I go, "Oh, Sam, how was it?" He says, "This was the show that I'm sure a hardcore Tom Petty fan hated, because he played every song I wanted to hear. He played all the hits, all the songs that I wanted to hear. And I'm sure the hardcore Petty fan was rolling his eye during the concert, like, oh, why is he playing American Girl? Why is he doing this again? Why couldn't he play some of the obscure?" And
Right, right.
I think it's amazing how Bruce mixes in the, he doesn't do all the quote unquote hits every show. He mixes in what he's going to, give us in a set list.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think that's really interesting that even that the band can even remember those songs and play them, and
Yeah.
just on cue without having a set playlist. Or I know, yeah, he's got pretty much kind of a set list that he follows and he varies on it. But then all of a sudden he'll do a sign request or whatever and just break into something from 50 years ago, whatever, and the band plays it flawlessly, at least from my standpoint anyway.
Yeah. There's a line, right, where Tom Morello, when he was touring with them, when Lil Steven was working on, the TV show, that Morella once said that when there was a sign request came up and he went, "Oh, good, it's one I know,"
Yeah, yeah,
which can be
yeah.
amazing. Well, so I always like to preface this with the amount of times you've seen Bruce perform live is not a fair barometer of how big of a fan you are. But for the record, have you seen him live and how many times?
Yeah, I've seen him live quite a few times. In fact, it's funny. I know I was going to see him one time, and a friend was like, or a work acquaintance was like, "Yeah, wow, that's like a once in a lifetime experience." I'm like, um, I'm on time number 6, I think. So, and it's like, wow. I'm like, yeah, and yeah. So I've seen him, yeah, yeah, 6 times. So,
So one of the couple of quick stories, and I had a boss who couldn't believe I had seen Bruce, over 10 times. He just was amazed that I had seen any band that many times. And then my favorite story was during the River Tour in the 2016, the second River Tour.
right, right,
I was working for a guy, and I had taken off vacation time to go to Jersey to see, a show at the Meadowland, kind of, Mecca. I'm going to see Bruce in Jersey, and and my boss is like, you know, he was one of those guys that was a workaholic, and he's like, "Well, we give you vacation time, but we really don't expect you to use it." Right?
wow,
He's
wow,
like,
yeah,
blank blank always we end up paying him back because he never takes the vacation time. And he says, and I'm just a little surprised you're taking vacation for you've already seen him once before. And I didn't want to tell him that this was the 5th time I'd seen him on the tour, right? I was
right,
like, boy,
right.
he'd be really mad at me. So that's amazing. When was the,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, when was your first show, Ken?
Yeah, my first show was the Tunnel of Love tour, which it was at 87, 88,
Great
something
tour.
like
Great. I
that.
would have
So
loved to have
yeah,
seen that show.
yeah. So it was funny at the time. I really enjoyed it and was just mesmerized by it. But I think I was anxious to see him again because I believe Thunder Road wasn't played. I know Born to Run was acoustic.
Yeah.
And I'm not even sure if Rosalita was played at that first concert. So, kind of those big staples. I don't think I heard, even though I was certainly at that time. I love the show and had a
Yeah.
great time at it. But I was really anxious to see him again, and that was kind of like okay, next time was on the 92, 93 tour. And I know a lot of people are like, well, he didn't have the E Street Band and stuff, but I heard those songs
Yeah.
that time, so I really enjoyed those shows.
So the first 7 times I saw him, I did not hear Thunder Road, and I was like, am I ever going to hear Thunder Road live? Right. And, Ken and I just talked about the archive. I would have loved to seen that tour, mostly because uh, I think hearing some of those songs from Human Touch and Lucky Town would have been really interesting to hear, right? Because, they aren't played that much very, the way now when you see him perform live. Yeah.
Right, right. Yeah, yeah. In fact, I saw that show two nights in a row, so it was interesting. Like the tickets weren't selling or whatever. And I had tickets for the first night, and I went and saw the show, and then I went to work the next morning, and it was kind of all
Yeah.
I could think about. And my buddy who I went with called me. He was like, "You know what I'm thinking?" I'm like, "You want to go back tonight too, don't you?" And he was like, "Yep." He's like, at that time those tickets weren't selling very well, and I think it was one of those venues where they have the pavilion in front that's covered and then the lawn in the back. So
Yeah.
I thought like the lawn wasn't sold out, and you could just walk up to the box office at the stadium and pay for it. And that's what I intended to do. But I drove up by myself, and my friend, I met him there, and we knew some other friends going. And I wound up buying a ticket for something in the parking lot for like less than face value. So it was, and then it turned out to be, that's a show I really remember,
Oh, I can
very well,
imagine.
actually.
Yeah. What any other shows from shows that any other stories from shows you want to share?
Yeah, I think this is something interesting to bring up. It's a show I didn't actually attend, but I was in New York for a trade show, and he was playing at the Broadway show at that time,
Yeah.
and I was trying to get tickets, but a single ticket was over $1,000, and I
Right.
just didn't want to spend that much, and I thought I could possibly get it down to where I would. Get something I could afford or was willing to part with, and just never got there. And I have like a group chat with some friends. I wound up like tweeting something for or sending something for I was frustrated about
Yeah.
not going in, and like turns out the same friends I was mentioning happened to be there. Him and his wife were at the Broadway show same time I was there, and they're like, well, we're going to go the following night. We don't have tickets, but he'll sign autographs coming out of the show, and we're going to get there about the same time the show starts. So we did that. We went, and about the time the show was starting, we went and waited outside in this little like pit area that was like cordoned off, and we got there and we're pretty close to the front, and it was kind of interesting. It was really jammed with people, and there was a young lady in front of us who had this like beautiful vinyl set of Born to Run album, and she was hoping to get it signed. And then there was another young lady out there with a Father's Day card,
Yeah.
and they wound up both getting autographs from Bruce.
Very
He came
cool.
by and signed them. So it was really great that I saw him kind of do a double take at the Father's Day card.
Yeah.
That was kind of an interesting experience. I just thought of the dedication of these young women here to do that for their fathers, because that was hard. It was a lot of standing, and really,
Yes.
I questioned my own wherewithal to stick through it, and they were willing to do it. So I thought that was kind of a nice, really nice thing to do.
Good. So he's going back to Broadway
Yeah,
for
I
a
just saw
limited
that.
run. Are you tempted to try to go?
Yeah, I was thinking about that. I'm wondering, again, how tough of a ticket is, and then I've got to fly to New York, so it gets to be such an expensive proposition. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, you probably don't have much time to decide as far as face value tickets, but there's always the secondary market. So
So what I've been reading is this venue is double the size of the Walter Kerr Theater.
okay,
So
okay,
that's on the plus side for someone who hasn't gone. It will be maybe not quite as intimate, but you have double the chance of tickets. So maybe, uh, and I'm sure you've seen it on Netflix.
yeah. I
Yeah,
watched that first day it was on. Yeah, in fact, somebody texted me, "Do you know this on Netflix?" I'm like, "Yeah, I watched that like within the first 5 minutes. It
yeah,
was it was
exactly.
on." So
Yeah. Well, good. Well, I hope you get a chance to go. It is something. I was lucky enough. I had not planned to go, and someone reached out to me and said, "Hey, why aren't you going?" I'm like, "Well, I just can't afford it. There's no way." And I couldn't get tickets anyway. And this ticket angel said, "Well, I can get you a ticket. How much are you willing
yeah,
to
yeah,
spend?" And so that's when
yeah.
I had to go. And I don't know if you're a mixed marriage or not. I don't know if your lovely bride is a Springsteen fan or not. Mine is not.
Yeah.
Um,
No, mine is not either. And yeah, so
and
yeah, we
so
have that too. So,
yeah, so I tell this story, Ken, because um, we've been married over 30 years. And there are times when, and I sat down with her and I said, okay, there are times in our marriage where we ask each other something and the other one has to say yes. I mean, let's just, hey, is it okay if my sister comes and spends the weekend with us? The answer is yes.
yeah,
I don't have
right.
any, I can't say no, and which I wouldn't anyway. I love my sister-in-law, but there are things where, hey, um, but in this case, I said, Linda, you have the right to say no. So let's talk about
Yeah,
this. And so we had a pretty decent discussion. And I think what sold us is she was able to find a direct flight from Dallas to New York, pretty inexpensive. And it was wrapped in one of those little bitty, like boot hotels that basically had the same size as a cruise ship, cabin. you know,
right, right.
so I was able to get that. Well, good. Well, I hope you get to go. It'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I was just contemplating that when I saw that came out. I'm like, very
Yeah.
interesting that that's opening up.
Yeah. So I'm going to get back to Bruce, but I'm curious. How did you start blogging about baseball?
Yeah, a long there was a long way around to that one too. I actually started fiction writing, and I was writing some pieces, and I got a story published. And I don't know how, but from that, people started just contacting me on Twitter. Do you want to write for my blog? Do you want to write for my, blog? I'm like, wait a minute, I can write about the White Sox. I mean, I can do this. I mean,
Yeah,
I knew about blogging, but I really didn't, follow it. I just stayed with the mainstream outlets
sure.
for coverage, and I had people like ask me to write, for them all the time, and I just settled in on it and started writing, and started writing for one blog, and then found the one I'm writing for now, and just kind of stuck with it ever since.
What what about it do you enjoy?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, so really, I read about the minor league system, for the White Sox, and I
Okay.
guess really like trying to, at the time, I don't know if it really consciously I did. It just kind of came up, but the White Sox were in this rebuild, so that the minor league system was really getting a lot of focus and a lot of attention. They had traded for a lot of minor league prospects and so forth. But yeah, I enjoy writing one. Obviously, I write fiction, and part of my day job is writing. But yeah, I really like just I get to interview players. I've interviewed executives. I've interviewed coaches. So just really getting to kind of dig into these things, and write about some of these players, and kind of come up with some of these angles. It just is kind of satisfying to me. I like to learn about things, and I kind of really sometimes get into some probing questions about some of these things, and really kind of go off on tangents. So they turn out good that way.
Well, because what I think is interesting, right, is that we have a small Frisco Rough Riders is the Texas Rangers, minor league that's here in Dallas, and so we will go to that pre-COVID. Probably at least once a year we would go, and in a lot of ways we enjoy going to the minor league part than more than we do the Rangers. It's a little smaller park. It's a little more intimate, and it's interesting because it in terms of music, it's like you're seeing an opening act. These young players, right, may make it, may not make it, and are they going to catch lightning? And it so it truly is, in terms of music, it's like when you're going to see a opening act that only has 30 minutes to convince you, and every once in a while at a venue you'll go, they were really good.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
I should
yeah.
go check out to see if they have anything available as far as an album or something. So I'm guessing, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but is that part of the intrigue?
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely. It's like you just see these players. You're like, well, can he turn into something? And you kind of just analyze, their stats, and their kind of their whatever bios or whatever, and kind of their measurables, and talk to them, and kind of watch them play, and kind of just really get into it. It's kind of
Hmm.
I've only talked to one guy who actually made it to the majors, which is Dane Dunning, who's on Texas now, but. Yeah, it's kind of trying to pick your racehorses and see who's going to make it, and kind of analyze these things. That's kind of the fun of it. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. How has it, what's it been like covering this during COVID?
Yeah, actually, it was kind of rough because there was nothing going on, so we really didn't do a lot in the last year or so, and it was kind of hard to come up with topics. So I've kind of had a little bit of a layoff from it. I mean, they still had held a draft last year or so, and that's one
Yeah.
of the things I like doing, kind of getting into the draft, and again, you're kind of just discovering these players, and you're reading about them, and he hits like this, and he runs like this, and he fields, and like, wow, this guy sounds like he's going to be really good. And then you're watching videos and trying to make evaluations. So, there wasn't a lot to write about. So it was kind of tough to stay in it mentally, and was definitely chomping at the bit for it to start back up, and glad it finally has.
Yeah. We ended up, um, so last year, the Rangers opened a new park, but there you couldn't go to get tickets. And so this year they've opened up, and so I I looked, and not that I'm obsessed, Ken, but August 25th is the last day of my transition with this eating. And so, like August 26th, I can go to normal food. So
Okay,
it's going to
okay.
be very different. And like on August 28th or 29th, on a Saturday, um, the Houston Astros are going to be here at the new ballpark. So I texted my brother-in-law. I'm like, "Hey, do you want to go to the Astros game?" And so we're all going. So I'm really pumped about going to see the new game, the new stadium, and seeing. And I'm a big baseball fan. I just love the purity and the beauty of it. And I bought into Ken Burns' documentary. And in fact, for the longest time, my wife's like, "I don't want to go to the baseball game." Why? Because you and Chris watched the game. Like,
Yeah,
Chris
yeah.
and I could just, and you just watch the game, and you there is a silence, and then maybe have an exchange and talk, but you just truly are just enjoying the game.
Yeah, yeah. See, I treat it like almost two different experiences. Like, if I'm watching on TV, I'm really getting into the game. I'm studying it. I'm,
Yeah,
what pitch to look at the break on that pitch or look at the
yeah,
swing. But at a ballpark, you can't really, unless you got really good seats, you can't really do that. So
right.
I'm kind of the other way around, where if I go to the game, I'm there to socialize and have fun, and eat the food and talk to people, and just kind of
Yeah,
get swept up in it. So I don't really, I kind of turn that part of it off, and don't really, overanalyze, and just kind of, late, relax and enjoy it.
good. Have you been able to go into Bruce has played the ballparks a couple of times. Have you been able to make a show when he played there?
Yeah, I saw the he played in Wrigley Field. What was it, 2012? And I saw the first night.
Yeah,
Which, yeah, it was kind of quite an ordeal getting there, and or getting home being an ordeal, but getting there was. And it was kind of crazy. We got there like right before it started, and it was raining all day, but it turned out, held out. And then, like, a vendor dropped a row of cups, empty, of course, but hit my wife in the head. So it
oh
was kind of a,
no,
yeah, it was kind of like, oh no, we're not off to a good start. But
yeah,
once it settled in, it was it was a lot of fun. I mean, believe Eddie Vedder was there that night. I'm trying to remember, and
okay,
Tom Morello played, and
wow,
Bruce made a lot of, people there, watch from the rooftops there, and they have those, and he was talking to people on the rooftops and things like that. So yeah, that was a real good show. Yeah.
so are there songs, and there always are, talk to me about favorite songs or albums that
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, I guess, yeah, there's so songs are hard to pick. I mean, there's so many of them. We could be here all day, but as far as albums, I really still stay with the ones, I guess, I talked a lot about Born in the USA already, and Nebraska I do like. And I like those pre 84, I suppose.
hmm,
The River, probably my favorite overall. I mean, just the volume of songs, that the first 7 songs on the first disc or side one or whatever you want to call it, and then of course the river itself, and
yeah,
just some great songs. Point Blank's a big favorite of mine, of course, and Stolen Car. Actually, I like the Trax version of Stolen Car better. Yeah, and then of course, I guess Darkness, and Born to Run, of course. I mean, just so many classics, and then
sure.
Greetings. I really like Greetings too. So
So what were your thoughts on Letter to You?
yeah, Letter to You. For some reason, I really haven't been able to connect with it. Like, I like it. It sound, you hear it, and it sounds good, and it's just really that vintage E Street Band sound. But for some reason, like, I haven't really latched on to any of the songs, or really, can call them among my favorites. And I don't know, lyrically, for some reason, it just hasn't spoken to me.
Okay.
So, and I can think, like, I really should like this, but I just am not connecting. But I don't think it sounds bad. But for some reason, I don't have that 2 or
Emotional
3
connection.
songs that
Yeah.
that I've really connected with for some
How about
reason.
how about Western Stars?
Yeah, yeah. See, now Western Stars was, I kind of thought that I didn't like it as much, but now looking back, it's like, Tucson Train, I still play. I really like that song. Sleepy Joe's Cafe was a song that I really, really attached
Yeah.
to. So that might, I've made more of a connection to than Letter to You. And now maybe it'll be a thing where a year from now, all of a sudden I get into it. But, for right now, it's something, I mean, I don't think it's bad,
Yeah.
obviously,
No.
but it's not
Yeah.
really just something that's, connected to me.
Did you like the Western Stars film?
Yeah. Actually, I watched that on a plane from the UK. Actually, right before COVID, but that was
Oh,
a good
really?
find. It was that. Yeah. In fact, I was in the UK for work, and we are really nervous. Like we weren't going to get back. The rumors are going to close the airports and
Yeah,
all
sure.
stuff, and people were moving their flights up. And I was on the flight back. It was like a week or two or a week and a half, and everything shut down after that. But I was on the flight, and the in-flight entertainment had it on there, so it was a great find. And I also watched on the way out. I watched, what's the one? Is it Blinded by the Light?
Yes.
That movie too. So
Yeah.
yeah, I watched that one on the way out to London from here. So kind
Nice
of
double feature, right?
yeah, kind of unexpected too. So.
Yeah, that's great. That's really good. Well, good. Well, when he tours again, we're all hoping he's going to tour again. Are there songs that you're chasing, Ken, that you want
Yeah,
to hear live that you haven't had a chance to hear?
yeah. So another story where things kind of went wrong. So the one song that I had always been chasing was Backstreet's,
Okay.
and he played that on the last show I was at, the River Tour 2016, and the song starts up and like, okay, here it is, finally Backstreet's. And the guy behind me like taps me on the shoulder, and he was like, my wife dropped her glasses. They're down there underneath the seat. Like, can you grab them? I'm like, okay, I'm gonna turn around 2 seconds, grab them, and pick them up. I'm like, then I can't find them. I gotta get a flashlight. And I found them. I handed to him, and he was. Then he starts explaining to me, well, it was important to find these because of this and that. And I'm like, yeah, I know. I just that's good. I'm like, I'm not mad. I want to
Dude,
hear this. So
I just want to really hear this song, and now then why are you messing with me? That's hilarious.
yeah. so I guess I want to hear Backstreet's again.
Yes.
Because that's definitely one of my favorites. So other than that, I think For You is one I want to hear. I don't know how often he really plays that. No Surrender is one I haven't heard. It was a big one, for me from Born in the USA. Probably my one of my favorites there. And maybe again from Greetings. Does this bus stop at East Second Street? Another fun one that I really kind of like. So
Yeah, those are all good choices. That's really nice. That's really nice. That's good. So what have I not asked you that I should have, Ken?
yeah, I don't know. I think we've covered everything. Let's see. I mean, we talk sometimes about some of those obscure songs that
Yeah.
people like, and I think underrated song maybe is something that I've really latched onto is Local Hero.
Oh yeah, that's a great one.
That song is, and just lyrically, it's a treasure trove of great lyrics. And I know, in fact, I hadn't listened to it for a while. I went back and listened to it, and I was like, I thought this lyric was from another song. So yeah, I really think that's kind of an underrated song that I really enjoy. So
yeah. Do you try to work Springsteen lyrics, Springsteen references into your blog?
No, I don't try to do that too often. Although it's really interesting because like sports writers for some reason are really into Springsteen,
Yes.
and I don't really know why. Because it's for me, I think this might may age my era, but I don't know, maybe a lot of sports writers are maybe middle aged like myself for that, but it's kind of interesting, but I don't really mix the two too much. I think people probably kind of wouldn't get the bit or kind of roll their eyes at it. So
Yeah. I unfortunately am not as disciplined as you, and I will my boss has made the joke. He says I don't know if there is a way if there is an example of where you can't fit some kind of Springsteen story and or experience into when we are talking. And I like raise my hand, guilty, like in basketball, where the player raises like, yep, I did the foul.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
just like, yep, that's me. That's totally me. Yeah.
yeah. In fact, it was funny. I was reading back a work thing that I had written a year or two ago, and I just noticed something. I'm like, was I quoting Bruce here? What was I doing? Like, why is that phrase in there? That's kind of not right to use. So I guess yeah, it slips out every once in a while without subconsciously maybe.
Yeah. Have you been working mostly remotely during the COVID?
Yes. I've been working from home for the last year and 2-3 months, something like that. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's been quite some time. Yeah.
And business is good?
Yeah, we're rolling along. So things are holding up. So yeah,
That's good.
it was scary at first, but certainly things have just moved along pretty well.
That's good. And is Chicago starting to open up? I know you're in the suburb, but are things getting to back a little bit normal?
Yeah. In fact, all of Illinois is opening up on Friday,
Okay.
June 11th. It is. So we're in the last few days of it here, and really, as far as restrictions go, there's not too much anymore, except for the big things like I don't know if restaurants are even still limited. I think they are, but sports and concerts and that sort of stuff. But that'll all end, and certainly getting bombarded with those types of things nowadays.
Yeah, I bet it is. That's going to be great. Yeah. Texas has opened up either for good or bad. And so we're going to see how things are going. Like I said, we plan to go to see the ballpark. We're going to check out the new ballpark toward the end of August. And so kind of interesting how that's going to be because they're not requiring people to wear masks. Now, my wife and I, and most of our circle have all been vaccinated, so we're kind of feeling okay about it, but it is kind of still, it's going to be weird when we see that many people in one place.
Yeah. I mean, they started to lift some of the restrictions here, and I was apprehensive at first, but I've kind of gotten more comfortable with it. I guess the gym just last week said if you're vaccinated, you can
Yeah.
take off the mask, and I don't think anybody's wearing them. I guess I kind of trust those people that kind of be
Yeah.
healthy and do the right things more than some other venues where you're dealing with a crowd and you don't know kind of know the people by face anyway there for the most part. So
Yeah. So Ken, you mentioned every once in a while you also do some fiction. Are you working at anything now?
no, I was still kind of doing both when I first started blogging, but I just lack of time,
Sure.
and I couldn't really make I couldn't do my day job and all the stuff around the house and maintain fiction. So I've kind of let that go for a while, but I hope to try to get back into it at some point. So
Good.
we'll see if I'm always kind of coming up with ideas in my head. So we'll see if I can come up with one that's good enough to motivate me to write it down. So
Well, that's a perfect segue to the Mary question. So you can use your creative mind to give us an answer to that. If for some reason this is your first episode of Set Less Than Bruce, the Mary question is very easy. Jay Armstrong is an honors English teacher, recently retired in the Philadelphia area. And every year he breaks down Thunder Road as a poem. His seniors would review the poem, go over all the lyrics, the imagery, the themes that Bruce expresses in the song, and at the end of the 2 days, he would ask his students, "Does Mary get in the car?" So, Ken, that is your question. Does Mary get in the car at the end of Thunder Road?
yeah, I feel like this is some kind of like secret psychological test that there's some secret answer, right or wrong answer to. But yeah, I gotta say, I don't really have any deep, anything groundbreaking. But of course, she gets in the car. It's a town full of losers. I mean, why would she stay in a town full of losers? I mean, he certainly tells a very persuasive story. So, I don't know after that presentation how she could not get in the car. So I'm going yes.
Very nice. I like that. That's a good answer. Any final thoughts you want to share?
No, I just I guess just looking forward to seeing what else Bruce has going. He certainly surprised us, with the Broadway show now, and he's hinted the cryptic message about the Western themed album.
Yeah, which you're like,
And
I thought we've already gotten that with Western Stars. Like, what is? Yeah, I'm very curious what that is.
yeah, because I was like, is this old? This has got to be old. But I'm like,
Yeah,
but it wasn't. Um, so yeah, who knows? That's very intriguing. And then, I know there's a lot of talk about the tracks too. So
yeah,
I don't know, what could be left. I always wonder. He's put out so many of these things, and these all these extended albums, like the River with all these, and the Promise discs that came out. So it's hard to believe there's anything left of quality, but there must be. So
yeah. That's a really good thing to talk about because I think the same thing, right? Like how much more is there meat on the bone, right? But I guess he's very prolific when he records during, especially like during the Born in the USA and the things. The rumor is there's an Electric Nebraska out there,
yeah,
and
yeah.
who knows what you're going to go on. So we'll have to see, right?
Yeah, and you can certainly tell on a lot of these pieces where he's it's like a version. There's a lot of the same lyrics and some of the same sounds,
Yeah,
and then he scraps that version or whatever, and then goes on, and and then there's another version where it's in the full, the song that ended up on the record. So I think you see a lot of things they're experimented with musically or lyrically out of those, but they're all listenable. So
yeah,
that's good.
absolutely. Okay, if someone wants to reach you, give us your Twitter handle and if they are dying to know about the White Sox, farm team, how can they read your stuff?
Yeah. So my Twitter handle is very simple. Again, I didn't know Twitter was going to turn into the thing it did when I joined it. But my Twitter handle is just simply at Sawilchik, which is Sawilchik. So you can find me there, and you can read a lot of silly White Sox and some Bruce tweets. Not as many. I try to stick to my audience is mostly White Sox fans.
Yes.
And then it's futuresox.com.
Okay.
One word. So yeah, if you want to read any stuff or catch up on the White Sox minor league system, that's the place. So again, futuresox.com.
Well, thank you. Well, you and I have exchanged several emails, and you had said how much you were looking forward to visiting, and I got to tell you, I've loved talking to you. As I was explaining, this is my first podcast in a while, and you were a great guest to kind of break the ice again. So
Oh well,
thank you
thank you,
so
thank you very
much. I
much.
appreciate
Yeah.
that. It's been a lot of fun. Listeners, you please stay safe. Get vaccinated if you can. Remember to wear a mask. Remember to social distance. And let's all be good to each other because that's the only way we're going to get through this. For now, take care and we'll talk to you soon. Goodbye. Thank you to my Patreons: Andrew Goddard, Betsy Hodges, Levi Petri, Elizabeth Bronson, Stephen Malio, Holly Mack, Steve Rogers, Dale Hosick, Terry Smith, Anna Lynn, Chris Bloom, and Mary Thomas. You all are my monthly angels. Thank you so much for the love and support you give on this podcast. You are greatly appreciated.
You just heard the fun talking, hard rocking, music loving, album ranking, fan thinking, joy spreading, lyric reading, story sharing podcast that is the one, the only Set Listing Bruce. Set Listing Bruce is part of the Southgate Media podcast group. The theme for Set Listing Bruce was written by David Rosen, used by permission.